What's going on, everyone? This is Alex Quinn, and you're listening to Hustle Inspires Hustle. On today's episode, we have Craig Ballantyne. He's known as the world's most disciplined man and is the author of The Dark Side of Discipline, as well as The Perfect Day Formula. He was also the creator of Turbolist Training Fitness System and owns earlytorise.com. What's going on, Craig?
Hey, how you doing, Alex? This is gonna be a lot of fun.
Hey, man, I'm really excited you're on here. Quick note, I actually briefly met you through Dan Fleshman in Miami at the $100 million Mastermind. You guys had some type of event.
The one on the island.
Ooh,
Where did we actually meet in person? Was it at the hotel or was it
no,
or
I
was it
think it
at
was the island, man. I think it was.
yeah, that mansion on the island thing.
Yeah, I think it was. You guys had some pretty cool stuff going on, and I've been following your stuff since then. So I'm pretty excited that you're on here. We've had a lot of growth on the podcast since I met you.
Very good, man. Very good. And yeah, like we were just saying before we got started, you have had like the biggest names. So congratulations to you, and this is gonna be a lot of fun.
Thanks, man. It was a team effort, group effort. I'm really grateful to everybody that supported me on the show from my first episode with Andy Frazella all the way to this one right now. It's been a wild ride. I learned a whole bunch, and I'm grateful to everybody that gives me their time. And I'm pretty excited to talk about your book, man. I know
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
tough working on a book. How's that been?
Man, we started the book probably about 18 months, well, almost 15 months ago. And books, man, they're the first part when like, oh, I'm going to come up with the title and a few chapters and write a bit. That's the easy part. And then the hardest part is probably like the ninth and 10th round of editing. And then
Yeah.
the real work begins going and doing the road show, which is what I'm doing right now, talking to a lot of smart guys like you.
Oh man, I know what that's like. The the proofreading part is almost
Yeah.
feels like it never ends. So I really connected that with you on the dark side of discipline when I was reading when you talk about that. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I did this one, like I just got up to show it to you. This is my first one. It's
Oh,
called the
nice.
Digital Marketing Dictionary.
Yep.
I wanted it to be the first digital marketing dictionary out, so it's for starters in digital marketing.
Hmm.
I have another one launching in about 3 months, 4 months. That's a full A through Z how to market online. That one's
Hmm.
about like 350 pages. It's like a full text,
Wow.
really a textbook. And we've been working
Yeah.
on it for like 2.5 years as an agency. It's been 10 of
Yeah,
us.
it takes a lot of work, man, because it's like, man, the Stephen King, the horror author, has a great line. You have to kill your darlings, and that's really, really hard when it comes to editing because, like, man, this sounds so cool, but if it's repetitive, then it's got to go, and it really hurts, and it's very difficult. That's why you have to get more of an outside eyes, and you can't really edit it yourself. But the other thing is, you never get it perfect. I was just telling my wife, I read the audiobook. I recorded the audiobook on Friday, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, that mistake, mistake, mistake. But you can't. It's already the manuscript is already in. The book is being printed, so people will find a couple of mistakes in there.
I'm happy for you, man. Really cool. So
Thank you.
how did this okay. So you this is not your first book.
No, it'd be my fourth major book outside of the fitness industry.
Is this your first collab book where you have a co-author?
It is. It is. And so Daniel Woodrum is the head coach in our business coaching program. And
Yeah.
he and I have owned gyms together. Like I said, he coaches a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
He's been in my world for about 14 or 15 years, and we have great relationship. And he is a really great leader, and he is a very disciplined person. And he's, one of my best students. And I needed him to help me with the book because I had about two-thirds of it done, but I didn't really have the ending part. And then he did a presentation at one of our mastermind meetings about standards, having really high personal standards, and the crowd loved it. And I was like, there it is. That's the ending of the book. So I had actually, from January 1st, 2024 to March of 2024, I completed what I called the first draft, really messy. And then I just sat on it for a while
Hmm.
until Daniel's content. And then we were just really super busy with other aspects of the business that it just kind of sat there dormant. And then we got back to it in the fall of this year and just finally wrapped it all up. And so it's gone, they took on a life of their own, and you kind of go in like little seasons of spurts with it.
Yeah.
But this is my favorite part now, is just going and doing podcasts and promoting it and stuff like that. Cause I've probably done like 1,000 interviews over the years for all my books.
Yeah.
And I just love it because it's great connecting with people. I'm introverted by nature, and so when I go to big events, like I sent Daniel to Funnel Hacking Live last week. That's not my jam at all. 5,000 people. But if I can go, I can just have all these one-on-one conversations without leaving the comfort of my own home and really dive deep with people. That's what I
Yeah.
really like.
Yeah, and I'm sure your audience really appreciates it because you're talking masterminds, you're talking like self-growth, so you're typically helping people and everybody learns a little bit differently. Some
Hmm.
people listen to podcasts, other people dive into a book and learn a lot better or
Yeah,
meeting
absolutely.
at masterminds. So it's really cool. I mean, my life has changed through masterminds and being able to work on myself. So I know that this type of stuff is important, but it's also like from my experience, not for everyone, because it's not like from what I've seen from all these high level masterminds is that some people may perceive them as a get rich quick scheme just because they don't have the discipline to do what they need to do, which I guess that's the dark side of discipline. They're putting a level one effort towards a level 10 problem, like like to talk about in the
Yeah.
book. And then but that shouldn't reflect upon the people that are teaching more so the person that's actually not carrying out what they need to do. So I wanted to see if maybe you could unpack that a little bit, the level one versus level 10 problems.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason why I wrote the book and called it The Dark Side of Discipline, which is really it was helped. This guy named Carrie Oberbrunner is my book mentor, and I can't remember who thought of the name of it, whether it was him or me. I might have suggested a few titles, and he said that's the one. Even though it's not like Atomic Habits or Think and Grow Rich, where there's a
Got it back
benefit in.
here.
Those are real benefit driven books, but this one is more of a get their attention and then get them into the book. And so the dark side of discipline is that people go out and do a lot of things, which on the outside might seem disciplined, working out twice per day, reading a book a week, cold plunging, doing all of these things, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning even. And on the outside, yeah, they're quote unquote good. But when somebody gets too deep into doing a whole bunch of things, has like a 2 hour morning routine and they end up procrastinating on their most important thing, what they're doing is they're putting a level 10 effort into things that don't really matter. So, you might call them a level 2 problem. And
Mhm.
on the flip side, they are not putting a level 10 effort into their level 10 problems. So the example that I use in the book is a friend of mine, he went and did all these discipline challenges online and he accomplished them. Great, awesome. He was spending, a couple hours a day on these discipline challenges and he succeeded. But he was already a disciplined person. He had built a multi-million-dollar business, he had a family, he was,
The guy that lost his
fit.
family?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then because he was doing all of this stuff and really focused on his business, he had no time for his family. And his wife said, "I've had enough." And I mean, that broke my heart because he was a good friend of mine and I just really looked up to him. And when I saw that happen, I was like, that's a level 10 effort into a level 1 problem of trying to impress people on the internet and a level 1 effort into the level 10 problem of your marriage. And we see this all the time. I used to teach at this thing called Fitness Business Summit with my friend Bedros Koulian. And every year I would look out in the audience and I would see the same faces and I'd be like, oh man, look at all those people out there. They have 8% body fat and $8 in their bank account. And it'd be two full days. Andy Frisella spoke at it one year, and it'd be 2 full days of sales and marketing. And they'd have great content. And then on the breaks, they would go and talk to the other attendees, the other trainers about nutrition and workouts. And so they'd go home, and I'd see them again next year, and they would have 7% body fat and now $7 in their bank account because they put a level 10 effort into the nutrition and workouts to go from 8% body fat to 7% body fat. But that's not a problem in their life. The problem
Yeah.
in their life was they didn't know how to sell and they put a level 1 effort into improving their sales skills, which was their level 10 problem. So they remained broke. And I saw this, because Bedros ran this event for nearly a decade. I saw it year after year. Same faces, same seats in the crowd, same position in life, and never breaking through because of that mismatch. And so, what I say in the dark side of discipline is that the ultimate definition of discipline is simply putting a level 10 effort into your level 10 problem, and everything else is just entertainment.
You spoke directly to me when I was reading those first two chapters,
Hmm.
especially when you mention about how when we start something new, like we get that rush of,
Yeah.
I accomplished endorphins, etc. And maybe we tend to do like little small things that in a way could be considered meaningless to the overall picture, right? When we
Mhm.
should be focusing on stuff. And when I was reading and more so thinking of other people, I was thinking about myself. I'm like, when and how have I done this? And how has it affected me? Because like let's put your friend as an
Uh,
example, the guy with the
yeah.
abs, with the multi-million-dollar business. He was doing all these routines, etc. And maybe he was focusing on the wrong thing. What do you think are some of the main like triggers or flags that people should keep an eye out for when they are in this, but they're so in it that they don't realize it?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and nobody's ever asked me a question exactly like that. But the bottom line is, we talk a fair bit in the book about knowing your big why,
Yeah.
your vision for your life, and your specific definition of success. And so that's kind of like the foundational work that one must do. And then that's the type of thing, like, Tony Robbins says, keep your goals in a place where you can read them all the time. And Jim Rohn said that, and all these people say that. And if you keep your vision and your specific definition of success and your goals taped beside your computer, for example, every single day you're going to look at them and you'll be able to do that. In the third part of the book, we talk about watching the movie of your day and movie of your life, and that's something that you might not have gotten to yet. But
Yeah.
it's
No.
just simply a review of, here are my goals. Here's what I did today. Do they match up? And if they don't match up, then you should be starting to see that you are not accomplishing what you need to be doing. You are not focusing on what you need to be doing. You are not saying no to what doesn't matter. And
Mhm.
that's where, you know, hustle inspires hustle. Everybody here is ambitious. We want to achieve great things. We want to achieve, we want to have it all. Just like the old saying goes, we want to have great business. We want a great income. We want a great family, great partner, great fitness, all this stuff. We want to have all of this and more. And you can have it if you say no to the stuff that doesn't matter. So someone who is getting off track will notice that they're just super overwhelmed. They're doing a whole bunch of projects and not focused on the main one. And, in your business, I'm sure you see it all the time, especially with your clients, is that they hear about some new way of driving traffic to their website. And they're like, oh, what about trying this? Or what about trying this funnel? Or what? Hey, listen, we've got something working here. Let's double down on it instead of
Yeah.
going and chasing more shiny objects. And
Yeah.
it is the nature of the world today with social media. You might be having a great life, and all of a sudden you see something on social media that you're not doing. And all of a sudden you think, well, wait a minute, maybe am I just half of the man because I don't cold plunge at 5 o'clock in the morning? I guess I better start doing that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, if you click on one video, that's all you see. And then you think all the world is doing it. And is it a good thing? I like a cold plunge, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to sacrifice my family time to go and do it. And that's the dark side of discipline. It's a good thing, but when the good thing sacrifices a better thing, that is the dark side of discipline.
Yeah, man, I totally feel that. I connected so much of with specifically with the first two chapters because I'm like, damn, that's you, Alex. Like a lot of this is you because one of the things that I immediately thought about is like I run a marketing agency, been doing it for 11 years. I tend to focus on my existing clients, so much on my existing clients that I get exhausted and then don't make time to acquire new business or to work into my
Mhm.
sales process or to perfect my sales process
Yeah.
and to scale it out, to not just rely, for example, on the deals that come in from a podcast or from my
Mhm.
personal brand and social media. And then, when I sit, I do have my goals written down on a notebook that I read over every day. I have a page that says my 2025 goals, and then I have the next page next to it is mistakes I'll never make again. And I
Oh,
got that
nice.
I got that from Drake because he talks about that in a song that he writes down all the mistakes he's never going to make again. So I
Oh,
have
that's
them both,
interesting.
yeah, I have them both side by side and I read them. But it goes further than just having it present. I think that sometimes there's something subconsciously of ours that keeps us from doing so because sometimes we may wake up and we know exactly what we need to do, but we purposely elongate the morning or the process of beginning what we need to do. What have you learned from that process? Like, are there any common denominators there that you see people have and any ways to overcome them?
Yeah, it's accountability, and specifically accountability to somebody you deeply do not want to disappoint. So when I was about your age and I was getting coaches and joining masterminds and stuff like that, oftentimes the coach would tell me to do, like a certain number of things, and I would do about 80% of them, which was helpful, but I wouldn't go all the way until I met a specific coach who became my friend, this guy Bedros Keuilian, and I looked up to him like a big brother. And so when he said jump, I would like jump 10% higher than what he told me to jump. And that was the relationship that really moved mountains in my life. And so everybody out there, you have somebody that you deeply do not want to disappoint. It could be an older mentor, it could be somebody in your peer group, you could be in a community,
Mhm.
and sharing your goals and saying, in 2025, this is what I'm going to do. And 2025, this is what I'm not going to do. And sharing that publicly with like-minded positive people. Oh man, public accountability is a game changer, because if you're a good person, which everybody is, you're going to have integrity. And integrity means saying and doing what you've said and saying what you do. And you don't want to feel like a hypocrite. And if
Yeah.
you don't do the thing that you've publicly proclaimed to do, and it's going to eat you up inside. And so it is so powerful that, hey, is goal setting great? Absolutely. Set your goals. But if you're the only person that knows those goals and the only person that knows the action steps that must be taken, well, you're actually the first person and easiest person to let down. And whether it's, I'm going to try something else, I'm going to, push it off a day, I'm going to, maybe do it later, or hopefully do it later and not get around to it today. But when there's somebody else involved that you don't want to disappoint and deeply do not want to disappoint, man, that is the magic mover right there.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I could already think of my main mentor, like already how he would rip me a new one if he saw I wasn't keeping up, if I wasn't keeping shit up the way I need to. Okay, so we've discussed so far having your goals written down, having them accessible, understanding discipline, understanding the dark side of discipline, what's important, what's not, and also public accountability, putting yourself out there, so people know that you have those goals, and then maybe perhaps if they care, they'll check in and put you in your place if you're not really doing what you need to be doing.
The best thing to do is to set up, proactively, a form of accountability with somebody, whether it's a weekly check-in. Some of our clients, we do daily check-ins, and it's just, we call this the power of three. And there's really just a small number of majorly important action steps that you must do or must avoid in a day. For example, we have this guy, Adam, and his business is building out data centers. And he needs to make sure that he gets to bed on time, because if he doesn't get to bed on time, then he hits snooze, and the day is screwed. So it's a core action that must be done. So every day there's three things that he texts in. One of them is, did I get to bed on time? If not, why not? And so most of the time it's yes, yes, yes to the three things that he has. But if he doesn't, and then he says, if not, why not? It's kind of a version of Drake's thing, because the coach will see it and go, okay, well, we'll never make that mistake again, because you've told me you didn't get to bed on time last night because you were at a friend's house, playing poker, or whatever. So we now have this rule. We're going to insert a new rule in Adam's life, that you don't play poker on what I call school nights, which are work nights. And
Yeah.
so you can play poker on the weekend if you want, when you don't have to do a certain thing first thing in the morning, but you can't play poker during the week. So that just becomes a not to do on your, Drake's never make that mistake again list. And then
Yeah.
he might have another couple questions. Did I do an outbound sales call? And, did I leave the office on 5 p.m. to make sure I got home for dinner? And, if yes or no, and if not, why not? And we can correct that. And it's not 10 questions. It's a simple daily power of three is what we call it.
Mhm.
And we proactively set that up with people when we see them starting to get behind on things, because
Right.
then it helps them just get back on track and do what they need to do.
Do you also notice like when guys or girls like are totally crushing it, maybe they're hitting their strides, they're making cash over fist, and then maybe they relax a little bit too much and they fall back into old habits because they get comfortable? Is that something you see often?
We do see it quite a bit, because um, most people in the world, in the entrepreneur world, are coming from nothing, or like middle class, right? So maybe their parents, maybe combined household income when they grew up in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s was $100,000 in their household income at best. And oftentimes people are starting from broke, and so they do get to a point where they don't need the mindset help to keep going or to push through. They need the mindset help on, I've made it. I've got everything that I want. now I'm getting into this complacency, and complacency can kill so much. It can destroy your business. It can, destroy the culture in your business, in many, many things, your fitness. And so that's when we have to start going from I'm doing this for me internally to thinking externally. And I'm here as an agent of change. I'm here as a person of service. And so, I've helped 1,000 customers or 100,000 customers right now, and I've got everything that I want, but that means there's a whole lot of customers out there that haven't been helped. And when we just, a lot of people respond really well to that, flipping the script that, originally, yeah, they wanted to make money, but they also kind of had a purpose to getting into their business. And I'm sure you see this all the time with the entrepreneurs you help. When you had Vivek and Tony on here, they were making the documentary about the child trafficking. Like, obviously, they're not making that for themselves to get rich. They're doing that because they want to do good in the world.
Yeah.
And when you show examples like that, and a lot of businesses have been built on that entire premise. Like you had Jessica, what's the one who did the Honest Company? Is it Alba or Beal?
We had Jessica Alba did the Honest Company, but that was
Yeah.
a feature episode where we talk about her. She wasn't on.
Oh, okay. Got
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
But that's a great example of the business, right?
yeah.
This is a business that is built upon a premise of a core value, a deep purpose that, the baby products, she didn't like them. She thought they could be better, more honest labels. And that's, Tom's shoes is another one,
That's
buy
what
a
sold
pair
me
of
on
giveaway.
being a client of her company because I actually buy her products. That's why I
There you
wrote.
go.
That's why I did the episode on her.
Yeah, we have 3 kids under 3, and we bought some of her products as well.
Yeah,
And it's great. I mean, you just automatically think like if I'm going to go and buy some baby stuff, that's probably the company I should go and buy
yeah.
from because the branding. But it is also it's a mission driven business. And so the people that do get to the point where it's like, I've got a nice car, nice house, I'm kind of not fired up anymore. Well, stop thinking about yourself and start going outwardly and thinking about
Making a
how can I
change and
make the
impact. Yeah,
yeah, mission
around you.
based business. And then you've already got more money than you need. But if you actually flip to that, you'll have way more money than you need. You won't even know what to do with it. But you'll be driven by the mission.
Okay? So you mentioned a huge one, bro, which is like one of your buddies or maybe one of your clients if it was that like want to sleep on time. Because
Right. It's very
the whole
common.
being tired the next day, there's people that just can't function being tired, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
There's people that have crazy stamina, but there's people that need their 6 to 8 hours of sleep no matter what. I
Yeah.
believe I'm one of those people. If I
Hmm.
get that hours of sleep, I could work 14 hours straight. But if I
Hmm.
don't, or for example, if I go to sleep past like 12:30, like past midnight more or less,
Hmm.
I don't get the same amount of rest. So that's
Hmm.
one huge problem I know people have.
Well, I'll
Another
tell you
problem,
what, Alex.
go
Sorry
ahead.
to interrupt you, but we were just joking about this today on our coaches meeting call. Um, that one of the coaches said, "Bedtime to the rescue again," and it's kind of an inside joke in our company that I've been coaching people for 25 years, from personal training to business coaching, and over the years, every single year, I get more and more convinced that the number one most important habit for success is the most boring habit in the world, which is getting to bed on time. Because if you don't get to bed on time, you're going to wake up and you're going to knock down negative dominoes. Whether you hit the snooze button or whether you just feel tired, you're going to over caffeinate. You're going to be rushed. You're going to be sitting in traffic because you were late getting out the door. Then you're
Mhm.
going to get to the office, or, if you work at home, you're just going to start snapping at people. You're not going to perform well. You're not going to make decisions, all because you didn't get to bed on time. Like, we just go and reverse engineer. Why did this happen? Oh, because 3 steps back, they didn't get to bed on time the night before.
Mhm.
And so, as boring as it sounds, getting to bed on time is like the linchpin for consistency and success over time. And one other thing that you might not know, but in terms of science, getting to bed, like the hours of sleep before midnight, are often more valuable than hours of sleep after midnight in terms of recovery and deep sleep.
Yeah.
So, getting to bed at 10 o'clock at night for, if somebody's a night owl, getting to bed before 10 o'clock, like pushing your bed time up earlier and earlier, like maybe 15 minutes at a time every week until you're at about 10 o'clock, you'll just be blown away by the amount of rest and recovery. Now, you might have to make some lifestyle changes around that, but if somebody's interested in that, that's game changer.
So if somebody could take anything away from what we talked about so far, and they can only do one thing, and they can't afford a book, they can't afford a mastermind, they don't have time to listen to long form podcast, and they say the one thing you would say, try to get to bed earlier, and
Not try, build a
do it,
system.
do
Build a
it.
system to get to bed earlier. And the system goes like this, Alex, is whatever time you want to go to bed, 60 minutes before that, you set an alarm on your phone. So if somebody wants to go to bed at 11 o'clock at night, at 10 o'clock at night, the most important alarm of the day goes off. The most important alarm of the day is not in the morning, it's actually at night. And so an hour before bed, you shut down all your electronics, phone, laptop, TV. Because, it's always the last Facebook message or email or text message that you check that gets you all fired up, the last Instagram reel that you watch. And the next thing you know, you're like messaging somebody in anger about politics or something. And so it's an hour before bed, all that gets shut off because that then allows you to, get away from the blue light, which stimulates you, and be able
Yeah,
to get into a wind down routine. So from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, you do everything like talk to your spouse, talk to your kids, read, take a bath, do some meditation, make your lunch for the next day, anything that is away from electronics. And then, you're going to find yourself easily getting to bed and probably even falling asleep before 11 o'clock, which means you get up on time the next day and then you crush it.
I love it. Let's talk about alcohol.
Sure.
Really hard to avoid. Um, one little whiskey or drink this seems innocent until it turns into two to three.
Yeah.
And then you check your Whoop stats and your resting heart rate, and all your stats are through the floor. Um,
Those like for me, it was the Aura ring that got me to like finally say never again to
yeah,
alcohol. But the Aura ring and Whoop are probably responsible for a major reduction in drinking, for sure,
yeah,
because of those stats. But I've been everything in terms of the drinking, from binge drinker to social drinker to very infrequent drinker. And then one day I read this quote. It said, "It's better to be 100% out than 99% out." And I had one night where I went out and I had one drink and I felt like crap the next day because I slept so poorly. I was just, there's no, the pain of this for 5 minutes of feeling good with one drink, it's totally not worth it. And then so I finally quit. But there were years that I wasted due to alcohol. And if I could go back in time, people often ask me that on podcasts. If you go back in time and tell your 20-year-old self something, it would be cut way back on your drinking or just give it up completely.
yeah. I know it. Like it's fun in the moment and shit like that, bro. But
Sure.
like for example, for me, I'm not a big drinker. Okay, just to start off. But I do go out like on the weekends, and I'll be at dinner, I'll get a whiskey or whatever. But again, you see the numbers, you see the stats, you see how you feel, you see it screws you up, and it makes you feel like shit. But then it's so interlaced into our culture that it's hard to get away from sometimes, which
It
is
it
I
it
guess that's
it, it
one of the dark
is
sides.
it was difficult to get away from. But now one of the one of the biggest drinkers I ever knew now runs an non-alcoholic beverage company called Zero Proof, and that industry is going through the roof
Yeah,
with the and you go to a restaurant now and there's like six mocktails on the thing, and
yeah, yeah.
Heineken Zero is not bad if you drink it cold out of a bottle, and
It's almost the same.
it really is. And
Yeah,
nobody,
yeah.
and if you go to a party, the bottle looks the same. So you're just walking around, looks like you have a Heineken. So if you're like worried about the peer pressure, if you sneak in a few Heineken Zeros, nobody's going to notice. But this day and age, it's getting a little easier. I mean, obviously there's still peer pressure, and obviously there's still the desire for the feeling of alcohol. One thing that I discovered in my journey is that half a drink is like that's where the peak benefits are. Even I know half a drink sounds like so little to some of the guys listening, but I eventually got to the point where I could have half a cocktail and be like, there, like it doesn't get any better from here. And so for a long time, I was like half a cocktail to one drink maximum. And that was when I was going out socially. I think that if you are really present with your alcohol intake, and like when I was younger, it was just like beer after beer after beer. But if you just like slow down and manage the intake, you can get maximum benefits with minimal alcohol intake and still, now you don't have to be the person at the table without a drink. You just take a long time to drink yours, but you're still getting all the benefits.
It's
So
little tricks.
it's thinking drinking, be a thinking man drinker, and you can really milk all the benefits for very little pain the next day.
You know, Craig, there's something that you talk about in the book. Well, there's a shitload of things you talk about in there that you slap me in the mouth. But one of them is you don't need to punish yourself to improve your life.
Yeah.
And that one spoke volumes to me because for a long time I had the belief that I had to suffer or go through the freaking mission to be successful,
Mhm.
right? Um, until I realized I was mistaken, and one of my mentors is the one that taught me that. So I wanted to see if maybe you could break that down a little bit, to see what your thoughts are behind that quote.
Yeah, so there's a few ways of looking at this. And so let's start with the 80/20 principle. So the
Hmm.
80/20 principle, I mean, there's a couple of great books around this that'll be beneficial to you. So 80/20 Marketing by Perry Marshall. Have you ever read that book?
Not that one, no.
No, he's like an ads whiz, and then he got the principle from this guy named Richard Koch, who wrote the book called the 80/20 principle and applied it to business. And really what this is, if you've never heard of the 80/20 principle or Pareto principle, is that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. So if you broke down an ad set or creatives, you would find that 80% of the sales are probably coming from a single ad or a
Two
couple of
ads, yeah.
variations of the ad. It
Yeah.
is 80% of the results come from 20% of your efforts. And you can apply this to, 80% of the tax revenue comes from 20% of, the Americans. 80% of your fitness results come from 20% of your exercises. 80% of the calories that you consume come from about 20% of the foods that you consume. And it just breaks down over and over again. So, what we're looking for in business is to analyze our business and our productivity and look for where are we getting 80% of our results from just 20% of our time and our effort. And in terms of productivity, it's around the idea that you probably have a time of day, what I call magic time, where your output is massive. And so you need to protect that time. So for me, it's early in the morning. But let's say for somebody listening right now, they know they're in the zone from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. every day. And they just, whether they're cranking out ads or sales copy or they're closing sales on the phone or whatever it is, like they are just in the zone. But then what they do is they let meetings go in there and they start doing social media or email during that magic time. No, you have to protect that. And so if you did nothing else but just work from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. with zero distractions on your number one money making opportunity in your business, you could probably, take a lot more time off than you are right now because of the 80/20 principle. If you just protect that time and focus. And then it's the same with your business in terms of your leads and your sales. Just analyze, if you're doing paid advertising, analyze your data sets to see like, man, it's just this one. We could probably cut the spending on so many other things. And if you're doing organic marketing, you might be on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and, TikTok, but only one of those is really producing organic leads for you.
Right.
Well, you're not better served by improving the weaknesses. You're better served by finding that one that works
Mm.
and doubling down on it. So kill the other ones, which is
Right.
very difficult for people to do. Very much like when you're writing a book, it's very difficult to kill the things that you've created. But if they don't belong in the book, they don't belong in the book. And if you
Mm. Yeah.
shouldn't be, putting posts on LinkedIn because you get zero sales from it, kill it. You don't have to be doing it. And so that 80/20 ruthlessness applied to your productivity and to your business frees up so much time, which then you can apply to whatever is missing from your life. But also, it just gives headspace. And when you have more headspace, you have more white space in your brain and white space on your calendar. You can sit there and kind of like, just sit back with your feet up on the desk and recline in the chair and come up with brilliant ideas. But if you're going and grinding and hustling, and I like hustling, so it's not a knock on the name of your podcast. But if you're just grinding all the time,
You can't burn out, You could hustle for a few hours, but not 24 hours a day.
right, and but you also don't have the mental capacity to make the right decisions. And that's what people don't realize because if you're always reactive and it's like emails are always coming in and like you're always doing a lot of DMs and always doing a lot of like, just ping ponging, you don't have time to sit back and go, oh, wait a minute. If I just stop this and I just wrote a better headline and I took 3 hours, went to the park, sat under a tree and wrote some killer headlines and came back, it would be more effective for my advertising than me sitting there and doing 3 hours worth of reactive messaging. Most people don't see that, they have activity, but not accomplishment. And that's the
Right.
thing that I'm trying to get across to people. And that's what the 80-20 principle tries to get across to people. And the last thing I'll say is in my book, I describe the world's most disciplined man as a guy named Charlie Munger. So Charlie Munger lived to 99.9 years old. He was a billionaire, and he was almost like an eccentric billionaire. I'm reading a book right now from barista to billionaire by this Canadian guy who he went and bought a whole. He was in digital marketing or technology, and he went and bought a whole bunch of businesses, and he became super profitable, and eventually became a billionaire. And the book starts with him going to Charlie Munger's house in L.A. in like this really rich neighborhood, but it was a small house. Charlie's super proud of this $50 shirt that he's wearing and a $30 watch that was a fake something or other. And the guy was a multi-billionaire flying economy on Alaska Airlines to the annual Costco directors meeting. So he was like a director at Costco, like in the on the board, and he would
Yeah.
fly economy. And it's just like this guy had the best life. He had money, power, and respect, and he never did anything that people would consider as disciplined. All he did was sit around and read all day long. And he didn't exercise after he got out of the army at age 18. He, didn't follow a specific diet. He never cold plunged. He just lived his life how he wanted to live it, and he achieved everything that he wanted to achieve. And there wasn't really suffering in Charlie's life. There was some external suffering, some from some family events, but he didn't make himself suffer. He didn't put himself through suffering because he just looked at it and go, well, I don't have to do that to be successful. And I get the young man's drive to grind and do hard things, and it's kind of like there's a beast in us and we want to do that from time to time, but you shouldn't make it the point. The point should be to get better from a challenge or something like that, and then but only if it's purposeful. And there's going to be suffering in a workout. I'm not saying like if you go and exercise, you're never going to have some discomfort in your workout, but that's
Yeah.
short-term suffering. And you shouldn't have to suffer through long periods. You shouldn't have to, I really hate those influencer posts where it says, go dark for 6 months, no, you should never have to like isolate yourself from your social circle to be successul. In fact, what you
Use
should
your
do
time
is
wisely. Yeah.
you should use your time wisely, but you should become more social if you want to be successful. Like I was introverted by nature, and I have thousands of people that I can call my friends today because I've gone to events, I've done all these podcasts, and I have a huge network, even though I'm not like a schmoozer or anything. But my network has only gotten bigger as I've made more money because I actually have a phrase that I use in the book, and I mean I don't have any tattoos, but I would consider getting this tattooed on me. Everything in life is easier when you know more good people.
Yeah.
Everything in life is easier when you know more good people. And everything from like if you want tickets to the Miami Football Club game, yeah, if you know more good people, chances are someone's gonna have tickets. If
Yeah.
you I met my wife because I knew a lot of women who were well connected who could introduce me to my wife. If I didn't if I didn't go out of the way to grow my social circle, I wouldn't have met those other women that then introduced me to my wife. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't be living my dream if I didn't know good people. Instead, I'd be, this isolated person who'd be upset.
Well, we wouldn't
So,
be sitting here if we didn't go
yeah,
out to the
exactly.
event. And yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So those are the ways that I look at it. A life um, will have some discomfort, but that's not the same as suffering. And so you shouldn't have to suffer.
Greg, where can we get your book? It's already out on all platforms, I'm assuming.
It is not yet. So in a couple of weeks, it'll be on all the platforms, Amazon, everything. There'll be hard copy, paperback,
Beautiful.
audiobook, and ebook. But people can also go to darksideofdiscipline.com. We're going to have some additional bonuses there when it's
Nice.
ready to order.
How about your socials? Where's the best social media to follow you for?
Instagram,
Best talk to you?
Instagram. I 80-20, Instagram only. So real Craig Ballantyne on Instagram. I love using Instagram, and I'll if somebody sends me a DM, I personally respond to it.
Craig, look, man, this has been one of my favorite podcasts, and
Oh,
I
good, man.
don't say this every podcast. I'm not shitting you.
I won't tell Tony. I won't tell Tony Robbins.
You don't tell Tony. No, listen, bro. When I met you at Dan's event, I knew you guys had a lot of cool stuff going on. I knew at that point you were already doing a lot of incredible things. When we spoke on social media about having you on the podcast, I got really excited that you were down to do it.
Yeah,
It's always an
absolutely.
honor for me to have people that have a good head on their shoulders, are willing to help other people, and are running incredible businesses. So it means a lot to me that you're coming back, that you're coming on here, and that you're coming back as an author with a new project that helps your existing business. I think that's totally badass. I'm very happy that we can help you push it. I'm
Thank you.
looking forward to finishing the second half of the book. I have my notes. I have my notes on the book. I actually took some notes. Check this out.
Good,
Uh,
man. Love it.
I got my notes right here. I nerd out, and I
That's
take
good,
notes.
man.
Yeah, every time I read a book, I nerd out. All the books back here have notes on Google Docs. So, I'll be talking about that on some of my episodes, and hopefully we can have you back on in the future, man. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it, Alex.
All right, everyone. This is Alex Quin, Craig Ballantyne, Hustle Inspires Hustle podcast. See you on the next episode.